Hey fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Welcome to this week in tennis. There have been some big news. Not all of this week is done in terms of tour play. We have Sebastian Baez versus Tabilo in Chile. The final coming up probably as you watch this or after you watch this later tonight. Time zones. Try to make this on a Sunday. The big piece of news in the last day in the tennis world has been that Andrei Rublev was defaulted in Dubai in the semifinals against Alexander Bublik. It was 5-5, 40-30 to Bublik serving. Really intense match, third set, all on the line. Emotions are running high. Rublev, as you know, he can be very angry, especially at himself. A ball that looked long but was called in really bothered Rublev, and he started screaming in the face of the linesman. It's not great, it's not a great look. He couldn't control his emotions. As we know, tennis is highly frustrating, and especially at the highest stages. That's not an excuse for the kind of behavior. However, I thought it was a bit oddly dealt with by the umpire, who quickly kind of defaulted Rublev on the basis that another linesman had heard him say stupid moron or something in Russian. Whether he or not he said that, there's been different reports. There's also lots of different takes on this. Most people condemn Rublev's behavior. Most players, active players, seem to defend him and think that defaulting him based on this was a bit too strong and a bit too sudden, and the audience obviously booed after this decision was made. You can understand that they want to stop all this type of behavior towards linesmen and umpires, but I don't think that will ever happen. This is a sport with intense emotions. These players are in the zone playing, and there will be temper tantrums. You can never kind of clean this stuff up. It's a part of sport, it's a part of drama, and I don't think it is so bad for TV watching. The guy felt threatened, maybe, yes, and it's not nice by Rublev to do this. But I can also understand him a little bit. Like, I could easily have seen myself do a similar tantrum, and I'm a pretty calm guy generally. But it's frustrating when it's such an important point and you feel like some really grave error was made. And that is why, in my opinion, you should have electronic line calling everywhere in tour events. Cut all this out. There's too much human error involved. We need to fix that. Maybe a point penalty or a fine for the behavior. Some kind of post-match disciplinary action would be good. Just defaulting him looked pretty bad for the tournament and the audience as well, and I thought it was a little bit exaggerated. They should also probably have some kind of video replay to actually look back, because now it was kind of the linesman's words against Rublev, and we didn't really know what was said. So I think it was sloppily handled and makes tennis look a little bit so-so. I mean, obviously Rublev doesn't look great in this whole debacle, no matter how you twist and turn it, but it's kind of understandable that emotions run high, and he's been heavily condemned by many on social media. I think tennis sometimes shoots itself in the foot by handling these types of situations pretty badly. Some aggro in between players, some drama on the court is good, but I think tennis often tends to kind of just get rid of all that. And is the product strong enough to excite people? That's the question. I think we need to embrace a little bit of emotions in tennis, and I get a bit frustrated when I think the opposite is happening. They just want people to be robots and playing from the baseline, and that's not the tennis I'm gonna watch. You know, if you have two 190 metric tall guys hitting belters from the baseline in endless rallies, that's not the tennis I want to see. I prefer watching Kyrgios, Mute even, and we'll get to Mute. These kind of different players, even Santoro, like players who can do stuff with the ball, who takes a different approach to the game. You need those guys in contrast to the more kind of straight-faced guys like maybe Rude, who doesn't seem to put a foot wrong. There has to be some guidelines, of course, but sometimes I think we're treating this the wrong way as a sport, and especially from the ATP, WTA. So that's my feeling. Yes, this was not great by Rublev, but maybe not the kind of attention that we want as a sport. All right, so that's about that. Please comment below. So then we go to Corentin Moutin in Chile. I did talk about this tournament because Baez and Tabilo they're playing today. For the title, my prediction is Baez. I think he's such a good clay courter. That's why I tend to predict him every week. The interesting match in the quarterfinals, semifinals was Mute, and he had a rough one against the Chilean crowd when he played Nicolai Jarry. He started the match with an underhand serve ace. So Jarid was far back, you know, it's clay court tennis, and he stood far back, and Moutet rightly spotted that, made an underhand serve, and won the point, to the booing of the crowd. Obviously, the crowd will be very, very heavily biased. It felt like a Davis Cup atmosphere, pretty much. Moutet, to his credit, won this match. I mean, he's a hothead. You can, you know, argue against him many times, but his winner speech was great. I think he said that it should be about respect for the players and the craft and so on. I mean, obviously, if he lost, he might have handled this in a worse way. But I think the speech was good, and I think we need players like him. I think it's an artist. He plays around. He does underhand serves, lots of drop shots. I think this kind of player, we need them, and we shouldn't punish them too heavily. And well done to win against Jari. He did lose when he played the second hometown hero in Tabilo, but yeah, he did well. We also had more tennis court drama in Chile, where Arthur Fils was very upset with the courts in Santiago. They did not look great, I must say. I saw some really dodgy bounces. Not the biggest fan of playing on clay. I like being on clay, but when all these bounces and there's a bit of wind and the sand moves, yeah, it can be a big distraction and irritation. But yeah, the court looked pretty crappy in Santiago, sadly, because it's a tennis country, and Arthur Fils was visibly upset. Did not get the disqualification, but yeah, I can also understand. I'm usually on the player side of these things, because it's, you know how frustrating it is. It's their livelihood, the emotions run high, and yeah, you have to have a lot of understanding for their situation, as well as protecting, of course, the umpire. We also have some gear drama. No, there's no drama about the gear. Murray has switched his string setup after 20 years of using pretty much the same setup. He has done a very minor change to most of you, which is, instead of putting the gut in the crosses and Alo in the mains, he has reversed it. So the gut in the mains and Alo in the crosses. He says he gets a little bit better, higher launch angle, a bit more free depth, and has done it to copy kind of Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer, who always had the gut in the mains. Most of you stringers, most of you tennis nerds with gear knowledge, you know that the main string is what gives the main ingredient, and a lot of players put gut there because it gives that nice sensation, a little bit of extra power, instead of putting it in the crosses, where it's a little bit of a diminished impact of the gut. Still there, but it makes a difference. I'm not surprised that he likes this setup, but he did say that it could have been a reason that he didn't get used to it and he struggled a bit to win these matches. In my feeling, maybe the string setup, that reversal of the string, might not have been the issue for him losing those matches. He wants his racket the way he wants it, and he's been playing with the same for many years. He did try to change a while ago, and that didn't work out for him. And yeah, now he's enjoying the gut in the mains, and we'll see if he can have a good few months, maybe before his retirement. He has been hinting in press conferences about that he won't be playing much longer after summer. I think Olympics, French Open, Wimbledon, and then probably no Murray after that. It's a shame. I think he should play as long as he wants. I hope his opinion is not in any way motivated by all these questions that he gets about when are you retiring, when are you retiring, are you making a fool of yourself playing when you're below your highest level, and so on. I hope this is a decision he has come to himself based on his results and his feelings. I am still getting loads of questions about Kokkinakis and his setup. He's gone to an arrow. I just wanted to reconfirm that. I think I said that in the last video, playing with a blacked out arrow again, and back to his roots from the ISO 98. That's usually how it goes. Someone tries something new that doesn't really quite work. Maybe they should stick with it longer, maybe not. That's hard to say, but he is back to the arrow now, and we'll see how long that lasts. Another question that is worth talking about this week is Emma Navarro's press conference, where she said she just recently started watching tennis. This is another sign that the young generation, they are more into actually doing the sport, not so much watching it, at least in terms of tennis. It's an old sport watched by a lot of old people. This is clear. I think we're seeing it more and more and more. Could be old sports, could be just a general behavior with how, you know, the smartphone and the social media has changed the game. People watch a little bit of highlights and that's it. It could also be a healthy way of distancing yourself from your work, and you're putting in so many hours on the tennis court, then maybe you don't want to watch tennis. This part I can understand, but obviously you lose a little bit of strategic knowledge if you're not watching tennis actively, I'm not saying passively watching it's going to help a lot. Needs to be active watching and understanding what's going on in the match, trying to get some knowledge, maybe look at your opponents and see what they're doing, how you can beat them and so on. This is a huge source of potential, and how wide tennis pros hire you know, analytics experts and get these kind of data sheets before the match, how to beat their opponent. I've talked about that several times on the Tennis Nerd podcast, so check that out with some analytics experts. That's pretty interesting to hear about that as well. Some quick results. Alex de Minaur, he defended his title in Acapulco. People were applauding him on social media because he, instead of celebrating, he took the early morning flight to watch his girlfriend, Katie Boulter, play her final, which she is doing against Marta Kostyuk. So Boulter Kostyuk in San Diego, the final there now before Indian Wells. People are turning up in Tennis Paradise for the Indian Wells. Fifth slam, whatever you want to call it. They didn't want me there because they declined my press pass. It's a salty comment from me, but some salt is good for you, right? We have some information on the Tennis Nerd website about this tournament, so I'm gonna go there and check it out. Written by my buddy Stefan. He's a tennis fan and nerd as well. We have qualifying starting today, Sunday 3rd in Indian Wells. This is obviously a quite long tournament. Starts qualifying today, Sunday 3rd, ends final Sunday 17th of March. And we will soon have a draw as well to look at. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock. The draw will be made at the Stadium Plaza in the Indian Wells Tennis Garden. They're all there. Who do you think is going to win? Who are your predictions on the men's and women's side? I'm going to go with Sinner, actually, which sounds insane. He has not lost a match so far this year. Why should he lose a match in this important tournament that he hasn't won? Just keep riding that confidence. It's kind of difficult to see who's going to beat him. Of course, Novak can beat anyone any time and anywhere, but Sinner seems to have it in him with the confidence and riding that wave. So yeah, Sinner is my prediction. Last year on the women's side, Elena Rybakina beat Sabalenka in the final. These are not two unlikely finalists, but we have Swiatek in the draw. She did play well in the tournaments now before. Also, Sabalenka's return to the tour after winning the Australian Open wasn't stellar, so we will see if she has some good nerves coming into Indian Wells. I'm going to go with Swiatek this time. I know I usually predict her to win, and that's not a shocking prediction, but she won in 2022, lost semifinals to Rybakina 2023. I think she has the game to win it. Obviously, this is kind of like a coin toss between Gauff, Rybakina, Sabalenka and Swiatek. If there's anyone outside that quartet, I would be surprised, to say the least. So we'll see that. Let me know what you think in the comments. But Swiatek and Sinner, the winners of Indian Wells 2024. My predictions, they might be wrong after 2 days. We will see. If you are going to the event, enjoy, have a good time there, and don't forget to play some tennis.